Cowboys Nation, this changes everything. A massive controversy just erupted around America's team, and you need to hear this right now. We're talking about a potential move that could absolutely destroy Dallas's credibility and derail everything they're building. Make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications for daily Cowboys updates, because what I'm about to reveal will blow your mind. All right, let me get straight to the point. There's been talk, whispers, rumors floating around the Dallas Cowboys universe about a certain quarterback prospect that has me absolutely fired up, and not in a good way. I'm talking about Brendan Sorsby. Now, if you haven't been following this situation closely, let me bring you up to speed on why this is potentially one of the most disastrous moves Dallas could even consider making. And yeah, I know some of you out there are going to say, come on, give the kid a chance, but hold up. Let me walk you through exactly why this would be a franchise-altering mistake that could haunt the Cowboys for years to come. First, let's talk about who Brendan Sorsby is. This is a quarterback who's got the physical tools, no question about it. We're talking about a guy who stands around 6'5", weighs about 235 pounds, and has legitimate arm talent. On paper, he looks like exactly the kind of developmental prospect that teams salivate over, the kind of athlete that scouts circle on their draft boards and general managers dream about molding into their next franchise quarterback. But here's where everything falls apart, and I mean completely crumbles. Brendan Sorsby was banned from college football because he bet on his own games. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. He bet on his own games. Now, for anyone who understands sports, who understands the integrity of competition, who understands what makes this game sacred, you know that betting on your own team is the ultimate cardinal sin. This isn't some minor violation. This isn't a guy who got into a bar fight or said something stupid on social media. This is a player who compromised the very foundation of competitive sports. And yet, somehow, someway, there are people out there in Cowboys circles, fans, and even some media personalities who are advocating for Dallas to use a draft pick on this guy in the supplemental draft. Are you kidding me right now? Let me paint the picture of what went down with Sorsby. The NCAA came after him hard. They fought him tooth and nail to keep him off the field. He actually got an injunction from a judge to try and keep playing. Think about that level of stubbornness. The man violated one of the most serious rules in sports, and instead of accepting the consequences, he tried to force his way back onto the field through legal maneuvers. Then the Big 12 Conference stepped in and said, absolutely not. They threatened legal action. They made it crystal clear that he wasn't going to play another down in their conference. Eventually, Sorsby had to wave the white flag and give up his fight to play college football. But that whole saga tells you everything you need to know about his character and his decision-making process. And now here's where this gets even more insane for the Dallas Cowboys specifically. We just spent the entire offseason hearing about how Dallas is being cautious about wide receiver George Pickens because of character concerns. Analysts and fans have debated whether his on-field antics and occasional emotional outbursts make him too risky for America's team. The Cowboys front office has reportedly had extensive discussions about whether Pickens fits the culture they're trying to build, and now you're telling me that some of those same people want Dallas to turn around and bring in a guy who bet on his own games. The hypocrisy is absolutely staggering. Let me bring in someone who breaks this down better than I ever could. Former NFL offensive lineman and current analyst Damien Woody came out and absolutely torched the idea of any team taking a chance on Sorsby. And Woody is exactly right. He pointed out that every NFL locker room has 53 guys, and not all of them are going to be choir boys. You're going to have some rough edges. You're going to have some junkyard dogs who need managing. That's just the reality of professional football. But every single player in that locker room knows from the moment they step into organized football that betting on games, especially your own games, is absolutely off limits. It's the one line you never ever cross. Think about the precedent this sets. If the Cowboys, one of the most visible franchises in all of professional sports, turn around and give Sorsby a shot, what message does that send? You're basically telling every young player out there that the rules don't really matter, that if you've got enough talent, if you can run fast enough or throw far enough, you can violate the most sacred principles of the game and still get your shot at the NFL. That's not just bad for the Cowboys. That's bad for football as a whole. And let's talk about the practical reality of having Sorsby on your team. Imagine you're a Cowboys fan watching a game. Sorsby is under center. He throws an interception. What's the first thing that's going to pop into your head? Did he throw that on purpose? He fumbles the ball in the red zone. Did he fumble that intentionally? He takes a bad sack on third down. Was that part of some gambling scheme? Every single mistake, every single bad play would be viewed through the lens of suspicion. You could never fully trust him. Your own fan base would be questioning his intentions on every snap. What kind of environment is that for a football team trying to win a championship? And it's not just the fans. Think about the locker room. You've got guys like Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, and the rest of of the Cowboys roster who put their bodies on the line every single week. They're sacrificing their health, their long-term well-being, all for the chance to win a Super Bowl. Now you're asking them to trust a quarterback who has proven he's willing to compromise the integrity of the game for personal gain. That's a recipe for absolute disaster. The locker room chemistry would be toxic from day one. Some people out there are trying to downplay this. They're saying like, oh, everyone deserves a second chance. People make mistakes. Let's show some grace. And look, I'm all for redemption stories. I love seeing guys overcome adversity and turn their lives around, but there has to be consequences, real, meaningful consequences. If Sorsby just gets a slap on the wrist and jumps straight to the NFL, what lesson has he learned? Why would he change? And more importantly, why wouldn't other players think they could do the same thing? Let me tell you something about gambling addiction, because that's really what we're talking about here. People who have serious gambling problems will risk everything for the thrill. I'm not exaggerating. They'll risk their careers, their families, their entire lives, all for that next bet. It's an addiction as serious as any substance abuse problem out there, and the idea that Sorsby has somehow been cured in the short time since his ban is laughable. Overcoming a gambling addiction takes years of work, therapy, accountability, and ongoing support. You don't just wake up one day and decide you're done gambling, especially when you're about to enter an environment with millions of dollars at your disposal. Now let's address the talent argument, because I know some of you are thinking, but what if he's really good? First of all, he's not as good as people are making him out to be. The hype around Sorsby has gotten completely out of control. I've seen people compare him to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, are you serious right now? That's not just a stretch. That's absolute insanity. Sorsby hasn't proven anything close to what would warrant that kind of comparison. And let's be real about the quarterback class he would have been part of. This year's draft was one of the weakest quarterback classes we've seen in years. So when people say he would have been a first-round pick, they're grading on a massive curve. The Dallas Cowboys have spent years trying to build a championship-caliber roster. They've invested heavily in their defense. They've got playmakers on offense. They're trying to create a culture of accountability and excellence. Bringing in Sorsby would undermine all of that in an instant. It would send a message that winning at any cost is more important than integrity, that talent trumps character, that the rules don't really matter if you can help us on Sunday. And here's the kicker. The Cleveland Browns, a team that has historically been willing to take chances on questionable characters, already came out and said they want no part of Sorsby. Their offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, explicitly stated they're not interested in dealing with the gambling issue. When the Browns are passing on a talented quarterback because of character concerns, that should tell you everything you need to know. Cowboys Nation, I need you to understand how serious this is. If Dallas makes this move, they lose all credibility. You can't sit there and say you're concerned about George Pickens' attitude and then turn around and draft a guy who bet on his own games. You just can't. The fan base would revolt, and rightfully so. The media would have an absolute field day. Every talking head on every sports show would be roasting the Cowboys for their hypocrisy. And worst of all, you'd be bringing a ticking time bomb into your locker room. Some of you might be wondering what pick Dallas would have to give up. I've heard people suggest a third-round pick in the supplemental draft. Let me be crystal clear. I wouldn't give up a ninth-round pick for this guy if one existed. I wouldn't give up a conditional seventh. I wouldn't give up a bag of footballs. The risk far outweighs any potential reward. This is not a situation where you roll the dice and hope it works out. This is a situation where you protect your franchise and stay as far away as possible. The bottom line is this. Brendan Sorsby represents everything a championship organization should avoid. The gambling, the legal battles with the NCAA, the complete lack of respect for the rules that govern the sport. All of it adds up to a player who has no business wearing the star on his helmet. The Dallas Cowboys need to make it abundantly clear that they're not even entertaining this idea. No pro day visits, no private workouts, no conversations, just a firm, definitive no. Cowboys fans, we deserve better than this. We deserve a team that stands for something more than just collecting talent regardless of character. We deserve an organization that understands the difference between taking a calculated risk on a guy with some baggage and completely abandoning your principles. Brendan Sorsby is not the answer. He's not the future. He's not worth the headache, the distraction, or the damage to this franchise's reputation. Period. End of story. And if you agree, drop a comment below and let me know. Make sure you're subscribed because we're bringing you Cowboys news every single day. This is a decision that could define Dallas's offseason, and I'll be here to break down every development. Let's go, Cowboys.